What's up, everybody? Good morning to you. Glad to hop on here for a few minutes to talk about the release of the Alabama Mississippi All-Star rosters last week. We wanted to try to hop on last week. Didn't have a lot of time, so found a few minutes this morning. Randy, good to see you this morning. We should be streaming on our Sports Blitz Facebook page and our YouTube page for all of you out there. Comment away. We'll be monitoring that as we roll along here. But good to see you this morning, man. Well, what a loaded roster this Alabama roster is.
Well, it definitely is. I don't know if that music's supposed to stay on, Brett. I know we're working through some things. Maybe it's going to roll on
now
off right
off.
now.
That just rolled off.
Now maybe I can think.
There you go.
This small little brain I have, when there's something in the background. You've been doing a lot of broadcasting with me over the years. Is there any person you work with that audio bothers more?
Yeah, if it's just a tad off, it like, oh my God. So it freaks
Yeah,
out.
it knocks me off. Football broadcast. If there's something in my ear, you may as well. But no, we're proud to be doing this. I said, Brett, the very first game you and I did for the Alabama Mississippi All-Star game was an unbelievable roster. Now, unfortunately, as you see my Auburn logo there, most of the talent that we saw on the field, Nick
don't
Saban
ever apologize for your Auburn logo, okay? Don't ever.
Well, I'm apologizing to the Auburn faithful that what I'm about to say was the reason that a lot of this nightmare happened
right.
Since Nick Saban, because I think it's either 2008 or 2009. It was A.J. McCarron. It was DJ Fluker. It was Dre Kirkpatrick. It was that entire class for the state of Alabama. And we went down to Mobile with our whole crew and called that ball game. And A.J. McCarron was, you could already see the class from him. Then he was exceptional. I think he was the MVP that day. I think Kirkpatrick also had an interception that day. And Alabama won going away. And all those guys ended up being All-Americans at the University of Alabama. So these rosters are very important. You know, a lot of times you can point to what's about to happen over the next 3 or 4 years based off of the talent level that you see in this game alone. And not only from Alabama, which we're going to highlight today, but the state of Mississippi too. Both of our schools have racked up over there and gotten some key guys.
They have. This is the best, I think, Auburn's done in the state of Alabama in a long time. Look, I know Hugh Freeze is taking his lumps on the field. The last year and a half, it hasn't been fun. It was good to see Auburn get a win on Saturday. Maybe that's the start of something positive for them. But talking about this roster, usually you see a dominated roster by the University of Alabama, and it's not the case this year. Auburn and Hugh Freeze's coaching staff made the state of Alabama a priority in this class, and it shows, Randy. I mean, again, when you look in, I'll start with the defensive line. I don't remember ever seeing basically the entire defensive line, save a couple of guys, all committed to one school. Jordan Crawford from Parker, Antonio Coleman, who I know has flipped back and forth from Auburn to Alabama to Auburn and back to Alabama and now back to Auburn from Sarah Lanyon. I've seen him a couple times. Very good player. Malik Autry, we've seen obviously this year for Opelika. Very good football player. Jacaleb Falk, the younger brother of Keldrick Falk down at Highland Home. A lot of people think he might even be possibly better. I don't know. We'll see. But
he's different. He's a different player. Let's go ahead and say that.
He is.
Keldrick coming out of high school was already 280 pounds. Had great size. That is not what Jacaleb will more than likely stand up at some point. He's only 225, 230. So he's a good.
He's a good basketball player too, by the way.
Yeah, he's a great athlete, and both are overall. So I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying that this is a little different size-wise than what you've seen from Keldrick, but a great get. And, man, what a run of athletes at Highland Home.
And they're ranked in the top again in their classification, and it's because of them and a few others that they've had come through. And then Jared Smith, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jared Smith from Thompson High School. I've seen him play several times. I know you have. Saw him earlier in the year. on TV, an ESPN game, and he single-handedly wreaked havoc for Grayson. I mean, he had a phenomenal game against a very good football team out of the state of Georgia. They ended up narrowly losing that game by 1 point in overtime. But Jared Smith, Antonio Coleman, Malik Aldridge, Caleb Falk, all those guys, Jordan Crawford. And then you look in the secondary, and you got Anquan Fagans, also a teammate of Jared Smith from Thompson, and then Eric Winters from Enterprise, who, I mean, they play in that gauntlet over there in East Alabama and 7A in that region. So there's just a lot of great talent. I mean, just think about what we just read off. I mean, Eric Winters and then you look at Malik Aldridge and then several other guys that play over there in that area. And there's other guys going to other schools, but we're mainly focusing on Auburn and Alabama today. I also want to mention, Randy, that if you look at the running backs, Auburn and Alabama are splitting the difference here. Auburn's getting Alvin Henderson. He just set the career mark for rushing yards here in the state of Alabama. Probably will hold that, broke a 27-year record. And then Anthony Turbo Rogers, who was originally at Pike Road, went to IMG last year, and now is back at Carver Montgomery and playing well. And he's going to go to Alabama. So both of those are tremendous running backs.
You know, I'm not sure exactly where Turbo will end up when he gets to Alabama. He may end up as a slot receiver. We just gave him our Alabama National Guard top prospect of the week this week for the HSAA. Looking at his numbers, Brett, he's only rushed for about 300 yards this year. They've got another running back there at Carver that they're using to run the football a lot, but he has caught right at 500 yards of passes this year. So he leads the team in pass receptions with over 40 receptions on the season. Also dual threat back there with the special team. So Anthony Rogers is a multi-purpose back. He's not a great size back, but he's explosive. We've been talking. How long have we been talking about him, Brett?
Well,
Since he was in 8th grade?
Well, yeah, he burst onto the scene with Pike Road, and I think it was in 8th grade. He helped them win a state championship, and you know, everybody. And they had another good running back, if you'll remember, on the team that year at Pike Road, and then you know, he was the freshman that kind of came in. Everybody went, "Whoa." Everybody, I mean, he may be better than the guy that got started.
Well, you know, it's the kid over at Ohio State currently that was with
Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, it was. So they had those two, but you know, Rogers, I think Rogers had over 2,000 yards total offense that year. I remember calling the game with you and saying, "My gosh, what's coming?" Well, he head off to IMG for a year and then ends up back in Montgomery again at Carver with Bobby Carr, and so he's a great player. I'm not knocking him at all. I'm just saying that for whatever reason, they're using him to throw the football to a little bit more than we've seen in the past.
Well, Bobby Carr has maybe one of the most talented teams in the whole state when it comes to D1 athletes. I want to say I heard 19 D1 prospects on this Carver football team. That's unbelievable.
Well, Tristan Norman's one of them. He's a wide receiver. He'll be playing in this game. Texas A&M commit.
Right.
Really good player. You know, watching some of their 7A games, including the game that they had with Central Phoenix City, where they've got great talent in the secondary, they couldn't stop him. That football game was whoever had the football last was going to win it. So just to run down real quick, a couple of the other players you hit on the defensive line, I hit on the quarterback position.
Yep.
Both of these guys, big-time D1 commits. I'll start with Mason Mims, Oxford High School. 6'2", 205 pounds is what he's listed here. It looks longer than that to me. He just about played perfect in their recent win, 21-10 over Clay Chalkville. I think he was 19 of 23 passing in that football game, Brett. And that was Clay Chalkville's first loss in 22 games. So Oxford's got a really good chance in 6A to run that thing out and win a state title. So he's a really good one. He's committed to Louisville. And gosh, it feels like you and I have been talking about KJ Lacey for a decade now. He's still down at Saraland. He's committed to Texas. Kind of has that Bryce Young look to him. Has that explosive arm too. He's got great arm talent and can move around. Listed at 6'1", 180 pounds. Maybe talk a little bit about him, Brett, because you've had the good fortune of calling a couple of his games so far.
Yeah, I think he has every tool that you need as a quarterback. You know, he likes to throw the football. You know, a lot of times people will misinterpret guys that are dual threat quarterbacks as, well, the first opportunity they won't take off and scramble. That's not what he wants to do. He wants to, we cover a quarterback in Alex City that's similar to that. He wants to look downfield and give his receivers every opportunity before he takes off and runs. And we all a lot of times are hollering in the booth, "Hey, just take the yards, take the yards." But they're very disciplined, and KJ Lacey's a disciplined quarterback. He knows how to win, and but he can hurt you really bad with his legs. So he can run the football, but he looks to throw it down the field, and he can make every throw. We talk about quarterbacks when you look at the things that they can do. That's what college scouts are looking at. Can they make every single throw that you might need to do at the next level? Because you want every possible, thing in your arsenal as an offensive coordinator. Well, if the guy can't throw the ball from the far hash to the far sideline, then that's probably not going to work at a D1 school, especially in the SEC. But yeah, he's been committed to Texas for 2 years. He's been pretty solid with that commitment.
Yeah.
I know there was some talk at one time, maybe. There was definitely interest from Auburn, and there was interest back from him, but he never decommitted from Texas. And Auburn had gone through really the Juju Lewis sweepstakes there for a while. And of course, Auburn ends up landing or getting the commitment from Deuce Knight, who had a phenomenal, unbelievable performance last week, and for his high school with 9 total touchdowns. But KJ Lacey going to Texas, I think he understands what's in front of him. You got Arch Manning sitting there waiting to take over for Quinn Ewers whenever he leaves, so he's going to have to battle. And but they're getting a good quarterback. That was going to be the next thing I said. You brought them up. Both of those guys are going out of state, and we've got other top guys going out of state too. Ohio State came down to Alabama and garnered 2 of the bigger commitments this year from top 10 guys. They got the number 1 commitment right now in the state, and Neem offered at Parker High School, defensive back that Auburn's still very heavy on and putting a lot of pressure on. And you and I know through some conversations we've had with some people that they're not going to let up. They're going to try to get him. But Zion Grady, another great player down there in Enterprise, is committed to Ohio State. So Ohio State, man, they come down here and get good players, and they make it a priority to come in and pluck as many as they can out of the state.
Jeff Kelly's the head coach, Brett.
Yep.
Saraland's head coach. He's been outstanding for a long time. This will be multiple years that he's been part of this staff. He's been the offensive coordinator before. Brett and I got to know him when he was at Jackson High School. Took that team to a state championship game, moved over to Saraland, and they've been in the thick of things since he got there. Great offensive mind, holds those kids accountable. We've always been very impressed with Jeff Kelly and the way that he runs his program, and he's a top-notch guy. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's a football coach. He's an old school, solid football coach that grew up at Citronelle here in the state of Alabama, played in this football game, threw a touchdown pass in this football game. So Jeff Kelly's got a chance to be a player in this game. He's already been an assistant coach and now a head coach here in this football game. So I wonder if anybody else has ever done that. My guess is that would be a negative. So Jeff Kelly doing something that's new. We get a lot of questions out there. I know we only got a couple more minutes here, but we get a lot of questions out there. How in the world is this squad decided on? Well, there's a group of coaches that they get together, and they have film that come in from all of the schools around the state. And of course, the way that social media works and the way that recruiting works now, we already know a lot of these guys, but others are sent in by their coaches. They check out the film. They see how they fit into the scheme that they want to run, and they're decided on that way. It's the top 41 football players in the state of Alabama by their position. Very exclusive club to be selected for this. And you and I have wondered it over the years, and I want to make sure that I clear that up, that it's a group of people. It's not just Jeff Kelly going in a room and saying, here's the 41 guys I want. No, it's a group of respected coaches here in the state of Alabama, and Trust me, Brett and I've sat in the same shoes a lot of you are in that are upset that some of your kids don't get selected for this game.
Just so
Trust me,
many
we've had a
spots.
lot over the. It's just very, very tough
So
when you're
many
only picking.
spots, man.
Like you take this secondary group. I wanted to hit on them before we went off, and you've already talked about all of them, but I think it's worth note. This is one of the best groups in state history, no doubt. Look at the recruiting rankings for these guys. You got Naeem Alford that you just said. You got Timothy Merritt also there at Parker High School. You got Eric Winters and Anquan Fagans. I mean, my gosh, all of them are 4 to high 5-star guys that everybody around the country wants. And you started with the defensive line. Let's start back in the secondary too, Brett. When you can string together defensive units like that in the state, it just tells you what type of talent we have here at the top end of the state of Alabama.
Yeah, in all-star games, everybody gets excited about offense. I'm excited about defense in this game. And, yeah, maybe I'm a little biased because we're getting a lot of these guys to come to Auburn. But seriously, I mean, this is from the defensive line through the linebacking core all the way to the secondary. It's one of the best secondaries, as you said, I think I've ever seen compiled as far as a group of all-stars. And so, yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to what you were talking about, how do you make this roster? Well, there's only so many spots. And let me add to this, this roster can change. Some of these guys can opt out of this game if they want to, if they feel like they don't want a chance getting hurt, or if they do get injured maybe in the playoffs, they'll fill that spot with somebody else.
Happened for Malcolm last year, Brett.
And how big was that?
Cam Coleman made a decision not to play in it, and Malcolm Simmons took his spot, and I think he now holds the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star Game record for touchdown pass. I think it was in high 80s. I can't remember the exact number, but he only touched the ball one time, but it was an 80-something yard touchdown
reception. But he punted in the game too. So.
Oh, yeah, and he could be an NFL punter. Brett and I have been saying this for a long time. If you've never seen Malcolm Simmons punt a football, you've missed out.
No, right.
He's that good.
That's the perfect example, though, of what I was saying, that, one kid steps out, another one fills in. Malcolm wouldn't even have been in this game. So I know people are going, how in the world would he have not made the roster? Well, he didn't originally. And Cam Coleman stepping out, if you'll remember, had a plethora of receivers last year in this state that were outstanding. And Malcolm was really listed as an athlete, not listed as a wide receiver. So he came in and filled that hole when Cam Coleman stepped out. So
one more quick note here. The number one team in Class 7A, Auburn High School, has 2 players on this roster. One we gave the Lee County Athlete of the Week by Scout Program Management. Yesterday, Brett, Hugh Botiford, a big old center offensive lineman, 6'3", 330
I saw
pounds.
him at media day, by the way. I said, good Lord.
That's a big boy. And he is a member of this team, and Peyton Plott. We've been hearing Peyton Plott's name forever. Right. He's committed to Georgia Southern. Just a dynamic playmaker over there for Auburn High on special teams and at the receiver. And they'll snap the ball directly to him. They do everything with him to give him a chance to make a big play. So definitely wanted to mention that here in the local market, that there's a couple of guys there from Auburn High School that have made the squad. And we can't thank all of our sponsors for our social media players of the week. I'll take this opportunity. Brett and I plan to do this every morning. I'll take this opportunity now, though. If you've got players in your neck of the woods, and that's not just boys, but girls as well, that are doing great things in all sports, send them our way, and we'd love to have them recognized.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we thank everybody. We couldn't do it without our partners and our sponsors. Again, Randy works hard every day to recognize all these young men and women. And there's a bunch of them, lots of accolades, but we need the help. We don't have an opportunity to sit down and see everything that goes on in every corner of the state. So we need your help. We get fed a lot of stuff, but there may be something out there that we miss, and it's not intentional. We will highlight your student athlete if you send it to us. So
one more quick note, Brett. The game will be played on December the 14th.
Right.
So that's right after the Super 7 that Brett and I will be covering with the HSA Radio Network. That one's in Birmingham this year.
Yep.
Auburn and Alabama out of the mix for that because of the 12-team playoff. Can't commit to having those games in Tuscaloosa or Auburn anymore due to that. So heading to Birmingham this year, but December the 14th, the state of Alabama takes this thing very seriously. This will be the 38th Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game with the state of Alabama leading that series 26-11. Won last year's game 26-17. That one was over in Mississippi. And so stay tuned in for it. It's something that we enjoy doing and covering every year because we get to see these high-end talented kids before they head off. And you can always say, Brett, you know, before they became what they became, we got to see them in these all-star games. And they really, I think, appreciate, even your big names, appreciate being selected to this squad here.
Well, it's an honor. Look, the North-South game used to be the only game, and most all the top prize, and that's still a good football game. I don't want to slight those kids, and there's a lot of talent that comes out of that game. But this is the top end, maybe all-star game in the whole country when it comes to high school football. I know the Florida-Georgia game is good, and they've got some other good ones. But this Alabama-Mississippi all-star game on both sides, the Mississippi side and the Alabama side, have produced phenomenal college talent and multiple major NFL players out of this game. So this is another round of great talent that's going to be moving on through college and on into the pros. So looking forward to it. Want to remind everybody we'll be on at noon for the Auburn Blitz, as we always are. So we look forward to talking them about some Auburn football and basketball about to start up, and already had that exhibition game under their belt. So a lot more to come here today at noon, okay?